And we're good. How you doing?
Doing good, brother. Just wrapping up my Sunday, hanging out.
Yep, same here. Let's start with the pantry. What got you interested in that? Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Steve Steen, and I am the manager of a food pantry here in Western North Carolina. It's a nonprofit. We serve boxes of food so people in the community can come and pick up food from us. And we also serve dinner 4 nights a week. So we have like 3 employees. I manage the pantry. We have a chef that cooks all the food for our dinner service, and then our executive director. Kind of what we do.
What got you interested in that? What's the story behind it?
I started off as a volunteer. Me and my partner, we were kind of looking for something to get into. We were looking to get involved in the community, trying to find something to do. And around the same time, something that wasn't like super churchy, is kind of what we
Yeah.
were thinking. We were looking for like a community of people, and we wanted to like do something that was of service to others. Um, and my father, he does a food ministry kind of thing down in Tampa, Florida, and he was telling me about it. And it's kind of wild. We live in a small town in Western North Carolina, up in the mountains, a little bit west of Asheville, near the Cherokee Indian Reservation.
Mhm.
And I read the newspaper, brother, because I'm old school doggy. You know what I'm saying? I read the newspaper,
I
and
understand that completely.
and there was an article in the newspaper that the previous manager of the food pantry passed away. He was an older man, and he was like very vital part of the this place. It's called the Community Table, is what it's called. And we were reading. I had read that he had passed away, and so I was like, maybe this place might need some help, some extra volunteers. I had a different job at the time, so we just went in there strictly looking to like volunteer, and we volunteered for like a couple months, and I learned that they were going to be hiring a replacement for this gentleman. His name was Ski. And so after volunteering for a couple months, I was hired to be the manager of the pantry.
Do you like it so far?
Yeah, dude, I love it, man. It's awesome. I'm brought to tears almost every day. I'm brought to tears by the generosity and the kindness of our clients. The way that the clients and my coworkers make me feel. It's just like you hear things. You're a young man, right?
Yeah, I'm
You
17.
congratulations. The
Thank
glory
you.
days. The glory days. But you'll hear things in your life. You'll hear things like um your your employer and stuff, they'll try to pitch you this like we're a big family. That's what you'll hear from your
Mhm.
employers. And this place really feels that way. I'm 42 years old, and I've heard that a lot from different employers and places that I've worked, but this is the first time that I've actually felt it. And it's not just my coworkers, it's the clients too. Like they're the kindest folks, like the most down to earth folks, and I'm just able to like build some fantastic relationships with them.
Did it always feel like a family, or did it just kind of like build over on time?
No, dude, it did from day one. Like I can vividly remember my first night showing up to volunteer, and after being there for maybe a half an hour and making eye contact with my partner. She was washing dishes in the kitchen. We were serving dinner, and she was
Mhm.
washing dishes, and I was kind of helping out, running plates to clients' tables because we do it restaurant style. We don't like we are not a soup kitchen, right? Is our
Yeah.
biggest thing. Like we do it like a restaurant where we want these people to have some dignity and feel like welcomed. So they sit down at a table, and we have servers, and they come up and take their order and bring them their food. And I was doing that. And that first night, I looked at my partner, made eye contact with her after being there for about 30 minutes, and I was like, we found our spot. We found our place. We found our people. I think that's what it's about, is everyone's there And that's what makes it feel like a family, is that everyone's there for, honestly, for the common good of, helping out the community and being a place that people can come when they need assistance, when they need someone to talk to, when they need, obviously, their bellies filled. But more than that, it's more than just the food. It's more than just about the food.
Yeah, no, I get that. When you first started as a volunteer, what was like the first, month, week like? Like what was it starting like?
Yeah, so we started serving dinners, and we did that a couple times, but the probably 2 or 3 nights of serving dinners, and it was very rewarding. It was just awesome to talk to the folks. But then my first time as like volunteering and serving dinners, but then they asked me to come back and help unload one of the trucks, because we get like weekly trucks of food
Hmm.
from like the state-run food bank. And um there was like 15 people showed up to help volunteer, and I was the youngest one, because
Hmm.
typically, like, the people that volunteer with us are typically like retirees, people who are retired and have time to be there. And so I was like the youngest one there, and I was just like, I have a little bit of experience unloading trucks from past jobs when I was your age and that sort of thing. So I just dove into it, man. I just like jumped right into it, and they were just like so welcoming and grateful to have some. I don't want it to sound come across the wrong way, but they're grateful to have some like fresh blood in there, some life. You know what I mean in
Yeah.
there. Um, and yeah, it was like it was so much fun and like engaging. And the woman who's the executive director, who's now my boss, she was so receptive, because I would see some of the ways that they operate, some of the things that they could do, and I could see ways that we could improve on the efficiency and improve on the overall operations of the thing. And she was just so receptive. Like, I would pitch her an idea, and she would just be like, "Yeah, let's try it." She was like so welcoming of new ideas. Many places you work, they're not. Many places the boss wants it done his way or corporate way, and they're not open to these new fresh ideas. And I have a long history of management and that sort of thing. So she was like, yeah, let's try it, let's do it. It was wonderful.
Yeah, as somebody who also who's worked at like an old folks home in there for their first job, I can completely understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what it's like, right?
Yeah. What kind of food do you usually serve, like for the majority?
So we do the federal government's emergency food program out of the pantry. So the we get a biweekly truck, and we build the boxes of food that we distribute through the week. We build those the day the truck comes in, and it consists of all the food groups. So you're going to get some vegetables, you're going to get some fruit, you're going to get some protein, you're going to get some dairy, you're going to get some grains like rice or pasta or something like that.
Mhm.
That's what we do out of the box. But then what we serve for dinner, this is one of the other things, is it's like this family of coworkers that I have, is that um, the Chef Gary, he creates just some of the most wonderful recipes. Like, it's real home cooked food. He doesn't serve, like, it's not cafeteria stuff like you get at school. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It is, this man goes in there at like 7 o'clock in the morning every day of the week, and he cooks a home cooked meal the way your grandmother would. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
all fresh ingredients and everything. Um, recently last week, we had turkey pot pie. We fixed a turkey pot pie with like fresh cornbread on top and everything. We had Salisbury steak last week. We had, I think on Friday, we had pork chops and green beans. Like real home cooked. And this is the South, baby. We're in the Appalachian Mountains. So it's typically like Southern cooking almost, but like it's restaurant quality. Like, there's other restaurants in town that don't serve as good a food as we do.
So you're lucky to have him.
Oh yeah, and he's such a mentor to me too. He's got just like such a wonderful attitude. We get along great, and he's just such a mentor. He's somebody that I can kind of like, um, that has like helped me, learn the ropes of this industry, because my experience was like retail. I did go to school and I studied like human services, social work type of stuff. But I realized that that's not really what I wanted to do. So I had like the schooling to do this job, but I didn't necessarily have like the experience. And this guy Gary, he's just like, because he's been there for I think like 12 years, and he's in his early 60s, and he's so willing to share that wisdom with me, and I'm open to it. I want it just as much as he is willing to share it. So a lot of my day is just spent like listening to his stories, because I'm
Mhm.
distributing boxes of food. We're open throughout the day while he's cooking. We have a dining hall that seats about 50 people, 50 to 100 people. And yeah, it's just me and him like kind of kicking it throughout the day in between clients and keeping the place clean and doing the basic stuff that needs to be done to keep the place operational. But yeah, so much wisdom, dude.
How many? You said you have 50 people. How many people would you say are there on the daily to help volunteer?
We probably have between 5 to 8 volunteers per day. And the dining room seats around 50, maybe 75, but we serve 100 to 125 meals a day because we're open about an hour and a half, and they can just come in whenever they want. So they'll come in different in like waves. The right at 4 o'clock when dinner starts, the dining room will be full. Those people will finish their meal, and then a whole nother wave of people will come in. And then we also offer the meals to go. We serve them in little to go trays. So people can just pop in and grab a meal. It's gone up a lot since the summer started. Kids are out of school.
Hmm.
Parents are staying home with the kids, that sort of thing. We do have the city pool is right next door to our building. So we get a lot of families now that the schools are out, families popping in to grab a meal after swimming at the pool all day, that sort of thing.
How do you, boss, source your food?
It comes from the state-run food bank. So there's like one food bank in like Western North Carolina, and they distribute all the food to all the pantries. It's called Manna Food Bank. So they distribute all the food to all the pantries in Western North Carolina. Um, they send us what they want. Like we don't really have a whole lot of control on what
Yeah.
comes in the federal government's program, the TFAP program, the Emergency Food Program. But we also, because we're a nonprofit and we fundraise throughout the year, we also have a budget to be able to order food. And I do all the ordering for the pantry. Chef Gary does all the ordering for the dinner meals. And so, but again, it's just limited to like what's available, you know. So like twice a week, twice a month, ordering window kind of opens, and there'll be like a list of things that I can choose from, and I just add them to my cart, and then they come in on the same truck as our federal government food does, and then we stock our pantry with the food that we purchase on our own. Now, I do want to say that because we do have the TFAP program, but we also have a full pantry that people can shop. So they're not committed to those boxes of food. They don't have to take those boxes of food. If there's items that are in the box that they don't want or they won't eat, they can swap it out for other items that we have available in the pantry. Or if they just want something out of the pantry, like say they're out of peanut butter at home
Hmm.
and there's no peanut butter in the box, I'm going to hand them a jar of peanut butter if they ask for it, because we have other food available, not just what comes in the pre-made
Hmm.
boxes. And occasionally the TFAP program, like they don't send us enough because, like I said, business is up. We're growing because of the economy, because of inflation, because of the cost of food these days. We're growing every month. We're distributing more boxes every month than we did last month. So occasionally we'll run out, and then the clients will just shop through the pantry and pick out their own items. So we have a full inventory. But I do want to say that I believe it's something like almost 80% of our food that's our inventory, that's in our pantry, that's not government food. Almost 80% of it comes from the community, comes from local food drives, comes from people just showing up, with a truck full of food. It comes from the Boy Scouts doing a food drive, or a church doing a food drive, a school doing a food drive. You know, you've seen them where people bring cans of
Mhm.
food for a cause, that sort of thing.
So would you say a lot of people donate most of the time?
We have so much support. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable how much food gets donated from the community. It blows my mind. Like I said, I'm brought to tears every day. That's one of the things that brings me to tears. It's also kind of funny because, like, you know, I don't know what your beliefs are, but like the world works in mysterious ways in that, like, we'll run out of grape jelly. And then all of a sudden, a donor will just show up with a bunch of grape jelly. Like without us telling them, you know, they'll just show up. We're out of cereal. And the next thing I know, somebody walks through the door with a boatload of cereal. It's incredible.
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah. You said that what would you say? You said that like you could kind of trade it out if like they don't want it, or you would even give them like the jar of peanut butter if they really wanted it. Like, what would you say the most requested piece of food would be? Like they ask for?
Yeah, daily probably, honestly, close. Probably one of the top things is peanut butter. You
Peanut
know, it
butter?
really is. Yeah, it really is. Because we have all the canned goods, we have snacks and raisins, peanut butter, milk, cereal, things like that. A lot of our clients have been coming to us for a number of years now. They're not the same, you know, they do come back. So they're used to getting green beans, and they're used to getting corn, and they're used to getting diced tomatoes and spaghetti pasta. Like a lot of times the government program has similar items in the box. So they're oftentimes they'll ask for things that um, you know, isn't traditionally doesn't often come in the box.
Why do you think people keep coming back to your guys' let's just say restaurant?
Um, a lot of reasons. I'd say the food, number one. It's like
Mhm.
literally when I tell you it's some of the best food in town, it's some of the best food in town. um the way that they're treated, you know, there's not a lot of barriers to service, meaning we don't ask a lot of questions, we don't make you bring paperwork, we don't check your income levels, we don't do everything is self-reported. We do ask them their name, we do ask them their address, we do ask them their income level, but there's no verification process, right? We don't make you bring a pay stub, we don't check your bank account.
You're not if you're not poor, you can't come.
We don't turn nobody down, brother. I've never turned no one's ever walked through those doors and asked for food that didn't leave with food. Everybody gets food. If you show up and you want some, you're gonna get food.
Describe the process, but like, is it just walking in, or what's the process for people to get food?
Yeah, it's that simple. We ask you, we gather their information, and it goes into like a computer database or whatever. It's name, address, income level, and then how many people are in their household. You have 3 children, 2 adults, and so on. We want to know the size of their household. But once their information is in the computer system, that very first time, all they have to do is walk through the door and check in. Hi, my name's Steve Steen. I'm here to pick up a box of food.
Is it like a computer process?
Yeah, yeah, it's through the food bank, through the agency that distributes our food. It's their system. It's their database.
What would you say your biggest challenge is while working in the food pantry?
Um, you know, keeping up with the demand can be challenging at times because, you know, again, we have 3 employees. Um, I'm the food pantry manager, but I
Hmm.
don't really manage anybody. I interact with volunteers. You know what I mean? Because you can't
Yeah,
really manage a volunteer. They're not an employee. We can't make them do anything. They're going to give it their best, or they're going to do what they want. Um, but like, you know, like a lot of times a volunteer will tell us they're going to be here at 4 o'clock, and then they'll show up at 4:30, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late." And we'll look at them and we'll be like, "You're not late because you're volunteering. Your time is so valuable." And we, you know, there's no, but like just dealing with the demand. So oftentimes it's just me, you know, and I'll give out. This is like I said, this is a small town, and oftentimes I'm in the pantry all by myself, and I'll hand out 50 boxes of food in one day, just me by myself. And so just like, juggling that and being able to keep up with it. And then also the demands of keeping the place clean, it's because because we're, I don't, a food pantry, and on paper, according to like the inspectors and stuff, we're a soup kitchen, even though I told you we do not identify as a soup kitchen. Um, there's standards as far as cleanliness, right? You got to have certain things have to be cleaned, and the coolers and have to be set at certain temperatures, and everything has to be cleaned out, and pest control, and all the moving parts that are kind of like behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see besides the three employees. The mopping of the whole entire dining room floor, sweeping up and cleaning and culling out, because we do get produce. People drop off produce, like local farmers will drop off some produce, and also the government's program will send us produce, and like culling out and getting rid of the items that have spoiled, some rotten tomatoes at the bottom of the box, and digging through and pulling the old ones out, just keeping up with all of those moving parts. Now, if you ask my boss what the most challenging part would be, it's probably funding, and being able to keep up with the operational expenses, because it's expensive to do what we do. We spend a lot of money um, on ordering food, on supplies, the little to go trays, the napkins, that stuff adds up quickly. Paper towels and toilet paper in the bathrooms. Everything's free. We don't charge nothing, everything's free. We give everything out. But our space gets used every single day of the week. We're closed on Wednesdays. We're open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So 4 days a week, the space gets used. So just keeping up with like the operations of it.
Maybe this is a rude question, but how much would you say that you guys spend like on a weekly basis?
Oh, I honestly couldn't answer. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to total it all up.
No, that's fine.
Um, and I know that like um, when I place an order for food for our food pantry, just my ordering, not counting any supplies and stuff, it could be anywhere from $200 to $900, depending on what we need and what's available. And I do that twice a month.
So it's really expensive.
It's expensive, dude. Yeah.
Is there any way people in like the community could get involved?
Yeah, we do accept donations on our website, thecommunitytable.org. There's like 3 or 4 different ways to donate to what we're doing. I told you people show up with like truckloads of
Yeah.
food and stuff like that. But people also just from neighbors from our community also just show up and hand my boss checks all week long. I was just at work on Friday, and she ran up to Lowe's because we were installing a new doorknob on the front door, and she needed to get a new doorknob. And while she was out at Lowe's, a gentleman walked through the door whom I've never seen before. And he looked at me and he said, "Do you work here?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he handed me a wad of 20s. I have no idea how much was in it, but I went and put it away in her office. People come in and support us um, that way as well. And that can be done through our website.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like you sometimes there's just one person in the world who's nice.
Yeah, really, dude. Really. There's a lot. You just gotta find them, right? You just gotta find them. They're out there. And also, like, the internet and, like, social media culture and things like that will tell us that they're not out there, because you only see the bad stuff, right, online and wherever. The media is only gonna show you the bad stuff, but there's some, like, I was mad at myself. Me and my partner have talked about this a lot. I was mad at myself for waiting so long to ever go down to the community table, because I've lived in this town for over 10 years now, but I just went down there last year and started volunteering. I've been doing the job for a short period of time. I only started volunteering last year. And here, uh, this place has been doing such wonderful work for our 25th anniversary of being open is this August. So I guess almost next month. The 25th anniversary is in August, and they've been doing this for 25 years. And I didn't go down there and show up until last year.
Yeah. 2019, maybe 2020. How would you say COVID affected your company?
Dude, wild, right? Because you got to understand, so many people weren't working and so many people were out of work and had to stay home. Many people lost their jobs, things like that. Um, but we weren't allowed to gather inside. Now, I wasn't an employee of them at the time, but I
Mm-hmm.
have heard all the stories, dude. Um, so we couldn't gather inside. So every single day that we were open, they had to drag these huge pop-up tents outside into the parking lot, and they did a drive-through service where clients would drive through in their cars, both for food boxes during the daytime and for dinner service at night. And it was strictly like a drive-through service in our parking lot. So the gentleman who you know passed away last year, that was the previous manager. He had to sit out in a tent, in the parking lot in the heat and all that, every day of the week, just passing out food boxes. Uh, there's blood, sweat, and tears that had to go on just hauling all that stuff outside every morning, tear down the tents and put it back inside every day. It was very disruptive. It was very disruptive. Now, on the positive side, I did hear, and I don't know exactly how much, but there was a lot of funding opportunities around federal government grants and different grants from different agencies. So, from what I understand, we were able to raise some money for important things. Like we got a new standby generator. If the power ever goes out, the generator will kick on so we don't lose any food,
Mm-hmm.
and the food stays fresh. We got a new um, walk-in freezer, like you'd see at like a restaurant, because previously we didn't have that amount of space. So now that allows us to store and hold more food, order larger quantities at a discount because now we have the room to store it. Things like that. So like, yeah, it was hard on the actual work part, but there was probably more opportunities than there are now for funding, and because
Yeah.
that's where it's tough right now is finding uh, funding, finding grants, things like that. We have a lot of things that we want to do to improve, um, and I'm talking about like large scale. Like we want to have put new flooring in the entire dining hall because it's just old and cracking and chipping. That's going to be like $30,000, you know. So we're looking for grants and things like that to get some of that funding. And there's not as many available as there once was, say during those COVID years.
Uh, Talking about age, how old would you say the majority of the like, let's just say customers, like, are they are some of them teenagers? Is it wild? Like, what's like the majority of their ages?
There's a whole spectrum. I would say the biggest thing is we have a lot of families. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Because we do check the ages and the number of households. You also see a lot of grandparents raising their grandchildren for whatever reasons. Um, a lot of families, a lot of grandparents raising grandchildren, and then a lot of families with, say, this is the South. This is rural Western North Carolina. You have a lot of families with a grandparent living in the house as well. So mother, father, children, but also with a grandparent living in the house. I would say a lot of that. But yeah, I saw a lot of homeless folks, a lot of folks who don't have an address, a lot of people who live in their cars. You know, um, yeah.
Uh, are there any sticking memories from like when work as ever since you started? Are there any like sticking memories you would say, like in your mind, like that you remembered over the time?
Yeah, I told you about how they made me feel welcomed when I first
Mhm.
started and how my boss was just so receptive to like my new ideas. Almost any idea that I pitch her, because I come from like a retail management background. I was a
Yeah.
manager at Lowe's for a long time, like when I was your age and older. And so, um, anytime I would pitch her an idea, she didn't just say yes, let's try it. She like would run with it. Simple things like my first week there, kept having clients ask me, Is where can I charge my phone? Is there somewhere I can plug my phone in?" we didn't have a lot of outlets available. So I asked her if we could create a charging station, right? Let's make a
Hmm.
charging station so everybody could plug in. And like 2 days later, an Amazon box shows up and there's a charging station for us to set up a charging area for the clients to charge in. Things like that. You know, there's some lasting memories that are like I'm in the midst of them right now. There's things that are happening right now that I'm in the midst of, like helping people beyond just giving them food. Now, I can't go into too much detail about this because of like you know client stuff or
Yeah,
whatever. I
of course. Yeah.
can't give you all the details, but there's like things that we're doing and things that we do on a daily basis that are beyond just serving food because we're open all day. And so, like, a lot of these folks who are stuck on the streets will come in to seek shelter. And we don't identify as like a drop in center, a place, a lounge, or a place for people to chill. But, like, you know,
They can do
we'll
that.
let they can do that. We'll let them, and there's a few folks that uh, will often spend their days with us, you know, um, just kind of getting out of the weather, getting out of the elements, getting out of the heat, getting out of the winter when it was cold. And through those moments, I've been able to build relationships with these folks, right?
Yeah.
Because and recently, I've been able to observe and play a role in some of them getting better, help them along in this journey. Because I'm a sober person myself. I was a party animal, dude. When I was your age and a young man, I was the party guy. Um, and I got sober when I was 30, and so like I kind of have a little bit of experience as far as like what it's like to be in down and out, and to be in those types of um, situations of need where you need some help, you need to make a change in your life, you need to take some action to improve your lifestyle. I've done it, I did it. And so, like, most recently, I've been able to help a couple folks, um, we'll just say change their improve their situation, if you will.
Let's talk about van life. You mentioned that you lived in a van a little bit, like a couple of years. Was this before or after the topic we were just talking about?
This is before the food pantry.
Yeah.
So I got sober in 2014 and I moved out of Florida, where I'm originally from, and I moved up here to the mountains. And I moved into my grandparents' retirement home, the house that my grandparents built to retire. They didn't spend a whole lot of time there. They both kind of passed away. Um, and so they didn't get to spend a whole lot of time there. And so my family had this kind of retirement house that was up here in the mountains. Um, that nobody was really using, that I was like, and I wanted to get out of Florida. I wanted to change my environment. I didn't want to be around a lot of the temptations that I was familiar with. And I was ready to start my life over and do something different. So I moved up here and I enrolled in college. And that's when I studied human services, like that social work kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And I went to college and I worked part time. Um, and about mid pandemic, as the pandemic was winding down, 2020, I get noticed that my family's decided to sell the house, the place that I had lived for a number of years, the place that I had kind of made home, if you will. And I was like somewhat distraught, and I didn't necessarily uh, know what my next step was. I didn't have a very good paying job. I was just finishing college, right? Just kind of working part time. And I decided, I was like, what a better place than these mountains to explore. My job that I had was I was like a sales rep for um, Lowe's and Home Depot. So I travel around to all the different Lowe's and Home Depots and represent products that are sold inside those stores. So I covered an area that was like 200 square miles around Western North Carolina, from like where I live out to Asheville. And so I was like, why don't I just buy a van, just live out of the van? And So that's what I did. Moved into the van. I was a single man. I told you I was like a party guy.
Hmm.
Lived in the van for like about 18 months, traveling around from small town to small town. I would kind of like um, had my dog with me. And so I would work early in the morning from like 6 a.m. until like noon. And then at noon, I would just go to the forest or go to the river, go to the lake and set up camp. And then I would go to work the next day in a different town. I would like go from town to town. And in doing that, that's where I met my partner. Um, and so after like about 18 months, I decided that I met the woman of my dreams and I was ready to actually settle down, do the responsible adult thing, and that's kind of like how I got here. But yeah, it was awesome. An awesome experience. I was able to do it out here in the mountains in these small towns because at that time there wasn't a whole like it was easy to do, right? There's free campgrounds everywhere. There's spots in the forest. Like it's very rural. And yeah, just to be able to like, I don't know, you hear all these cliche things, but like I really found myself out there. It wasn't easy. It wasn't hard, but I really like came to terms, I guess, with my life and with who I am and what I wanted out of life by being out there alone for all those months, with just me and the dog.
Was the camp was like you said you lived in the woods, like well like you found woods and that's where you stayed. How else did you like stay safe, like like for bathing and like shaving and like all that kind
Yeah.
of necessary stuff?
Yeah. So I had a gym membership and I was able to go to the gym and take a shower. I do it at least once a week, but hopefully like twice a week,
Hmm.
depending on where I was. Because I would kind of like go in the same route. So it was like a couple 100 miles in a big circle. I would kind of travel in a huge circle that was like 200 miles. So like I would leave this town that I live in right now, and I might come back to this town in like 5 days. And so I would use the shower there. Um, got real familiar with like county parks, baseball fields, hiking trails, places that have like restrooms and stuff. I had I was able to keep food and cook for keep about 3 to maybe 4 days worth of food, so I could go out for like 3 to 4 days at a time, depending on my work schedule, which was very, very laxed. It wasn't a very demanding job. I was able to like make my own schedule. So like if I didn't feel like going to work today, I could just push it out till tomorrow. Or if I wanted to go, instead of going over to Asheville, if I wanted to go in a different direction, I could just reroute my schedule and like change it. So like I had like freedom. It was like the first time in my life where I had like complete freedom to choose what I wanted to do today. And that was very liberating, dude. It was liberating. Um,
That's like your typical day, well, living in the van.
Yeah, yeah, to just be able to like, you know what? Today I'm gonna go to the lake, or today I found a really cool campsite at a lake that I've never been to before. I'm gonna go there, um, and maybe make up my work on Saturday or something like that, just to have the freedom. You know what I mean? Because I've always like, I did, I told you I'm like a sober guy, but I did always have like
Yeah.
a job back in the day. Like I always worked and had good jobs, but they were always very demanding. So like you gotta work X amount of hours. You gotta show up at this time. You leave at this time. You stay late if the boss man asks you to. That sort of thing. Um, and with this, I was just able to just roam, dude, and just like go out and you know figure things out on my own and kind of do what I felt like doing. If I wanted to go fishing today, I would go fishing. That sort of thing.
What about emergencies? Like, how did you handle emergencies? Because I expect it was hard to get internet, out in the woods.
Yeah, it was not fun, dude. There was a couple emergencies, a couple times like I had trouble with the van. Blew a radiator line once.
It blew up.
Blew like the hose, like a radiator hose, and I had a
Oh.
radiator leak. And I had to like change that and walk for a few miles to get to an auto zone, like stuff like that, because there's no like cell service, that sort of thing, like you
Mhm.
mentioned. Um, at the time, I was playing Fortnite a lot with my nephew down in Florida, and so,
Mhm.
like, a lot of times just on my Nintendo Switch because I was in the band, And so like being able to stay connected with him was kind of challenging. He would like text me or call, hey, can you get on? Can you get on? And I was like, no, I'm sorry, I can't, because there's no service here. Like things like that. Um, it was definitely an adjustment, like to disconnecting, adjusting to that disconnection. But um, at the same time, I was doing things that were healthy and doing things that were um, overall and improving my life. But I'm not even gonna lie, like it did get depressing at times. It did get um, lonely. Dealing with loneliness can be challenging, and there were times when you're just out there with just me and the dog, where I was lonely. Like I almost feel like some of that loneliness like broke me down before I was able to like build myself back up or discover what I wanted.
Yeah. If I'm correct, maybe I answered you, but you said that you met your wife when you were traveling. Am I correct?
Yeah, I did. I did.
How did that happen? Could you talk about it?
Yeah, she was an employee at one of the stores on my route. And so like it was a slow deal. Like I knew her for probably 2 years before we ever went on a date. I was like just kind of getting to know her, having been in this like employment space for many years, like and being a sober person, it was like it's important to me to keep like a high level of ethical standards, right? And not cross any professional lines. And so obviously like talking to her and getting to know her and stuff, I was like into her, but I never for like 18 months to 2 years, I never like got personal with her. Business, strictly business. Um, and then after like a couple years, like she knew I was living in my van. Like sometimes I had solar panels on the roof of my van. I think this is one of the things that kind of opened that door a little bit for us to chat personally, was that I had solar panels on my van. One week we had like just torrential downpours where it was just thunderstorming for like a week, and we didn't get any sun hardly. And I was having trouble keeping my batteries charged. So when I got to work, I asked her if she would be, because she was like the manager of the place that
Hmm.
I was visiting. I asked her if she would be okay with me bringing my battery inside, my house battery from my van, and letting me charge my battery inside her store while I was working. And she was real confused at first, like she didn't understand like what I was talking about. But
Like
that
your
kind of
solar
opened up.
panels?
Yeah. I took the battery out because the solar panels weren't charging because we didn't have any sun. And that would charge my batteries. And those batteries I would use for like my lights in the back and charging my phone and charging my laptop and stuff like that. And my solar panels just weren't giving me enough of a charge as what I was using. And so like, yeah, she kind of looked at me strange and she was like, yeah, sure. And then we kind of over, very quite a bit of time, uh, eventually got to know her a little bit.
How would you say van life affected your finances? Like, was it hard or did it just kind of come easy?
Um, Financially, it was okay. It wasn't too difficult. If you go on like the subreddits of van life and stuff like that, you'll see a lot of people that try to get into the space to save money. Rent's too expensive. I want to save money. I didn't really save any money. I'll say that. I know a lot of folks that I talked to didn't either, mostly because, um, you're constantly having to go to the grocery store like every day because you can only hold in store so much food. There's constant the gas that you're going to be spending moving around from place to place. The gym membership that adds up, and then you get the temptation of wanting to eat out because you're in a hurry or because it's rained for 4 days and you don't feel like cooking in the rain. Um, Things like that. Like I never struggled, but I wasn't saving money either. You know what I mean? I didn't put any money away, and I'm a crypto investor, dude. I've been investing in crypto for a number of years. That's where I was able to pay my van off. Was with my That's where I was able to pay my van off. Was um, with my Bitcoin earnings from the pandemic. I bought a decent amount of Bitcoin at the beginning of the pandemic when it crashed, and then I was able to make some money off of that, and that paid for my van. Um, but so during those years of living in the van, I was able to invest very little. I didn't save as much. I would spend it on something cool when I was out there,
Mhm.
instead of saving probably.
So anyone thinking about going van life, would you say you suggest it or would you not suggest it?
Yeah, I don't regret it. I'll tell you that. I do not regret it. I don't know that I would be in the place that I am today with this like loving household that I'm in and
Hmm.
like doing the responsibilities that I do here around the house, like cooking dinner every night for my family and stuff like that. The things that I learned about myself, I think, were the most important. Um, I think it's very circumstantial with like what you have going on in your life and then also where you're trying to do this at, because like I said, around here there just wasn't a whole lot of it, so I didn't get run off. I didn't have cops knocking on my door in the middle of the night to wake me up if I didn't sleep in the woods, if say I slept at the damn grocery store or something like that. Like, they didn't mess with me, they didn't run me off out of parks, I didn't have the knocks that you'll read about. But yeah, I would. I would do it again. Let's say that. I don't regret it, and I would do it again for sure because it got me to a very healthy place. It was a part of what got me to a very healthy place.
Yeah, because I've been thinking about it, but I hear mixed reactions for like saying, oh yeah, it was the best thing, but no, it was the worst thing done. Like I've heard mixed feelings about it, so
Yeah,
I would never know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I said I don't regret it, dude. Like, I learned so much. It was the freedom that I felt was so liberating. It was kind of weird. Like, people would look at you differently. A lot of people didn't understand it. So like people that you shared that with, like people that I divulged that information with, like say at work, if I was at work and somebody found out that I was doing that, you get weird responses sometimes. Some people understand and get it. But some people didn't, and they would treat you like you're homeless. Like I would have
Like a hobo.
yeah. Yeah, I would have buddies, like, people that I knew that would be like, "Oh, yeah, come on, like, you could sleep on my couch," and, like, I, like, loved sleeping in my bed. Like, if I went to someone's house for the night, I would still sleep in my van, you know what I'm saying? Like, in
Hmm.
their parking lot. But I would get people, like, inviting me to their houses to, like, do things, and I'm like, "No, this is where I want to sleep. I'm not out here because I have to," you know? I'm out here because I want to.
Well, it was lovely having you. Thanks being one of the people to say that you would want to come on. Grateful to have you.
Thank you, brother. It was awesome talking to you, dude.
So far, you're actually the nicest person I've interviewed. So
Oh,
congratulations.
thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
brother. I appreciate it. Dude, I love
Yeah.
what you're doing, man. I saw you posted on Reddit. Let's just get this out of the way. I saw you post your post on Reddit. I have a podcast of my own. I've been doing it for a number of years. I think what you're doing is wonderful. I encourage you to keep going. I encourage you to keep talking to folks and getting to know people and develop that skill. I love your videos, dude. I love it. I enjoyed it. That's why I hit you up. Yeah, that's why I hit you up, dude, because I saw a couple posts. I clicked on your profile, found your YouTube page. I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to talk. I would love to.
Thank you. Yeah, and for every guest, I always have a saying where you get 10 seconds to shout out any a company, your website, anything you want, like off the top of my head. So go.
My podcast is called The Exemplar Effect. You can find it anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. It was lovely having you.
Thank you, brother.
Yep.